Welcome back to another Alvado video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a game played by Prestivant. Now, the entire NA ladder is climbing for the Defender Cup, so no one is holding back. Let's take a look at the video. Okay, here we go. Got the game played by Prestivant. Adds a new emote there. Goes for bow off of carousel. Bow is almost always just the best item to go for. You can basically flex any comp. GS is extremely powerful right now. You can play Kaisa. You can play Jax. You can play Sure Shots. You can play Duelists. The list just does not end. Buys out the entire shop. Prioritizes putting in the Duelists. Because, like I just said, Duelists, probably one of the easiest comps to play right now. It's dropped a full Sunfire Cape. Mascot Crest, Prankster Crest, Rich Get Richer. So, Mascot Crest and Prankster Crest both are pretty good in the stats, but the only reason why they're good is because Mascot Crest slots in perfectly into Yumi comp, and Prankster Crest slots in perfectly for AP flex, meaning, you know, fast 8, Talia, Soraka, Annie, Spellslingers, like all that. But the thing is, his current opener, he doesn't really, I mean, he's not playing Yumi. And he could play AP, but generally you want to have like a tier by now. So he's just going to go for Rich Get Richer. And he's trying to play a comp that revolves around level 8. So with the current meta, a lot of people are rolling deep on level 7. And sometimes even just staying level 7. So people are less consistently going level 8 because you will take way too much damage if you do not roll deep on either level 6 or level 7. But that does not mean that going fast 8 is bad. It's just a lot more harder to pull off. But if you have an augment like Rich Get Richer, gotta get the Beethoven, I guess. He was tired of the K-pop. He had to switch it to Beethoven. He's playing the sophisticated underground units. But yeah, back to what I was saying. If you have an augment like Rich Get Richer, and you're playing underground, you can lose streak and then, or you can like lose some rounds and then look to go fast 8 and cap your board around 8, and you actually can win out from that spot. It's just not a consistent strategy, which why people aren't doing it as frequently. Goes for GS off of carousel, still remaining flexible. He can still, you know, he's leaning AD because he started bow, but imagine you get dropped a whole bunch of AP items on Krugs. You still can very easily play AP from the spot. Sunfire Cape and GS, probably the two most flexible items in this set at this moment. You know, I really thought that Morello and Sunfire Cape were sort of balanced. But the thing is that a Sunfire Cape is just way better on like a 2-star threat, or it's way better in the early game. There really is not that many good early game Morello holders. So even if there's a whole bunch of, you know, insane Morello holders in the late game, you have Janna, you have Urgot, you have, you know, like Fiddlesticks, you have Sejuani. Just not worth making it because you don't get enough value out of slamming Morello in the early game. And Sunfire is not like bad in the late game. So You can see he's trying to play his strongest board while also saving as much money as possible. And he hasn't hit the first underground cash out yet. Let's see if he tries to go for, if he just settles with the first one. You can see there's another rich get richer player. So this is just all looking good for him, because if the other rich get richer player is also planning to go fast 8, then that's less people that are investing gold into their current board, which won't hit you as hard. Prep, Celestial Blessing, Second Wind. I'm curious what you think is the best option here. But you can see he goes for Second Wind. So he was actually talking to Soju. Soju is in this lobby, but they're in the same call. And he actually, the reason why it took so long to take it is because he asked Soju what he thought was better, and they were like talking about it. And he thinks that if you have more frontline units than backline units, then Second Wind is just always better. Celestial Blessing is only really strong when you have only a couple of frontline units and most of your units are backline, and if most of your units are dealing damage. So he has more frontline items than backline items. He only has 1 GS, and then he has 2 frontline items. And Second Wind is just going to give you a lot more value in healing your frontline back up. And Celestial Blessing is going to give you more value if you have units that are dealing more damage. But currently he has more frontline, so at least for the rest of stage 3, Second Wind is just going to be the better option. He looks to go for Bow, try and make Last Whisper, and then he just settles with Sword. So he's definitely planning on playing AD. Makes sense, especially after you get dropped a glove, and again, he started Bow. If he gets dropped any more bows, it'd be really hard to utilize those in an AP comp. You could look to make ZZ Ra an AP comp, but the thing is that he already has 2 tank items, so if he gets a belt, he would rather finish out the triple tank item trio, especially with Stoneplate. Stoneplate is one of those items that it's really not that valuable unless you have a really strong solo tank and you can pair it with other items. So he's currently on the second heist cash out. And again, he's looking to go fast 8. So his board is looking pretty creative right now. He has a random Fiora that's pairing with the Alistar and the Kale to give him Oxforce and Duelist. And then, you know, the rest of his traits just kind of work out with the Galio and the rest of the Underground. By far one of my most favorite style of games to play, because if you're spending the entire game not rolling, then you really have to flex your creative muscles in trying to build the strongest board possible. So he gets dropped a double gold orb, and in one of the gold orbs was 2 4 costs, in which he got a Samira. And then in the other gold orb was a Tome of Traits. So that's like a really good indicator that, yes, we should just be playing sure shots, playing around sure shots. Now you can see he doesn't immediately pop open the tome because he wants to commit more traits to his board, so he has higher chances of hitting traits, like higher chances of getting a trait that is on his board in the tome. And then final augment, hero augment. Gold into hero augment is really extremely likely for your last augment to be a hero augment. And then you can see he got to level 8 while being above 50 gold because of Underground and because of Rich Get Richer, and he still has gold to roll while still again being at like a healthy econ level. He hits Samira too, and he says, well, I don't need to roll anymore. he's comfortable. He's at 60 HP. Even if he loses some rounds and he feels pressured to roll, then he can send it on 8 and try and cap his board around upgraded front, like 4 cost, 5 cost frontline units. And something to notice is that in the previous turn, it was definitely a good decision to wait on popping the tome, because he was able to get in a Felios and Fiddlesticks. And so if you don't know how the Tome of Traits works, it uses your active traits combined with the amount of traits that you have, and it puts in for whichever traits that you have in, the more of those you will get. But the thing is that Fiddlesticks is a corrupted threat, and there's no trait that you can get that is corrupted, and there's no trait that you can get as threat. Like, those traits just do not exist. You can't make them, and you can't get them at all. There's no threat trait, and there's no corrupted trait. Same thing goes with Arsenal. There's no Arsenal trait. So those traits include, or are included in the like formula for giving you more traits, but they're excluded in the aspect of traits that you can get in the tome. So basically, if you max out your traits and you include a lot of traits that are they're just ungettable traits, they just don't exist, then it increases your chances of getting traits that you want, because it increases the amount of traits that you can get on your board. And, he gets Sure Shot, and that's extremely valuable because, let's be real, no one wants to play Senna. That unit with no items is like the most useless unit you could have on your board. Only reason why 4 Sure Shot is balanced is because you basically have to be playing a reverse Fawn if you want an itemless Senna on your board. Now, Senna with items is like a different story, but without items, she's really not doing anything. So one of the craziest things happens here. So he gets triple bow. So yeah, imagine if, of course he got that Samira for free, and he got the Samira support, or the Samira support hero augment. But imagine if he chose to play AP from that spot for some reason. He just got dropped triple bow. So if he played AP from that spot, he would have kind of been screwed. So it was a smart decision to, commit to AD. Yeah, so you can see how he goes fast 9, right? He gets 3 civilian in, he gets Windy Weather Janna, which is insane. And then he hits a Leona 2. So you're probably looking at his board right now and you're thinking, okay, Leona 2 has to be better than a 1-star Alistar. Has to be better than a 2-star Galio. It has to be better than a 1-star Sejuani. But he does one of the craziest things I've ever seen next turn. He upgrades some of his units, and then he wants more gold to roll. So he chooses to sell the 2-star Leona. So this just goes to show, you might be thinking, okay, well, like, what is he doing? He's like, really, like, this is so stupid. He's selling a 2-star 5 cost to keep a 2-star 1 cost and a 1-star 4 cost unit in his board. But the thing is, he knows exactly how he wants to cap out his board, and itemless Leona is really not that powerful. Now, he could obviously give the Stoneplate and the Sunfire to this Leona, but those items aren't, the most insane tank items. Like, Stoneplate is decent, but Sunfire is not really a tank item. And Leona is only, like, extremely powerful in situations where it's like fully itemized. And of course, the mascot trait and the sure shot, or I mean, and the civilian trait are both extremely powerful. So it makes you think about, you know, how you should be capping your boards. Also, notice how he's positioning his gen. A lot of people like to read every single one of the weather Janna hexes, but I think 9 times out of 10, you should be positioning Janna in the back row, and you should only be using the hexes to the left and the right of Janna. And then in this situation, he has this Urgot that he's okay with putting in the third row, and so he's just kind of placing the Urgot in the Janna hex. Like if Janna wasn't there, he'd probably be putting the Urgot in the same spot anyways. So it makes sense to greed that Janna hex. But if you didn't have this Janna, there's no in no world would you like completely clump up your units in like this weird positioning, especially including like frontline units. It's windy weather. You don't need your 2-star Alistar to get AD and AP every second. Like it's not doing anything. Also note, he took Redemption there, and he chooses not to place it on his two item tank unit. He chooses to place it on his Janna, and do you want to know why? For this exact reason. Look at what he's going up against. He's going up against an Aurelion Soul, and this is the strongest guy in the lobby outside of Prestivan. So he knows that all he needs to do is just tech in items for, his other opponents. If you don't know what Redemption does, it reduces damage from abilities that hit multiple units. And so Asol's Meteor is going to hit every single one of those backline units. And again, he's fighting another Asol player. There's actually 2 people that had Asol in the lobby. Not even just the best guy. I didn't even notice that. So that Janna is making so that it's just a help to guarantee that his only way of losing does not happen, which is the Asol sniping his Samira and somehow it dying just out of nowhere. But in combination with the Redemption and with Second Wind, it almost guarantees that his Samira stays alive and he can win the fight. Yeah. If you enjoyed watching the video, let me know. I hope you learned something. Like the video if you like it, and I'll see you on the next one.